Mwah.
This meeting is being live streamed. This video is private. What? That should not be true. That should not be true at all. Let's see. It's not private. It's not private at all. Why are you saying that? Usually this is so easy. Oh, okay. There we go. It is. It is working. Delightful. Although what is a little strange is that it is not coming up on my phone right now. And my phone is how I watch the chat, since I can't keep my live up on my computer because it gives awful feedbacky stuff. Aha! Got it. Yay! The technology is working! Hello, everybody. Welcome to Group Tarot's YouTube channel, where I go live on the 10th of the month at 11 a.m. Pacific to talk tarot with different decks and creators and authors and such. And this month, I for those of you who follow on my mailing list or the socials or whatnot, knew that I was just planning on having a solo time talking about the Last Unicorn Kickstarter edition and Rebel Deck, the Oracle, which ties in with unicorns because of this lovely no unicorn thing, which we'll get into why in a moment. It's not anti-unicorn, but sometimes you just need harsh realities rather than fun magical realities. And each one of these decks was gifted to me by one of my best friends, in each by a different best friend in this world. And so yesterday I was like, hey Spiral, hey Julie, I'm going to be chatting about the deck you gave me. Just thought you might want to know. And Spiral was like, oh, awesome. And the conversations pursued, and it was like, oh, well, you want to come and like be in the room? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, Julie, you want to come and be in the room? So today, for my birthday month, y'all get to enjoy a conversation between me and my besties. So enjoy a lovely Three of Cups moment. And I am going to take down my lovely little unicorn horn because I will get distracted by it. And yeah, so Spiral, you want to start and introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. I'm Spiral O'Neill. In addition to being a priestess of the Spiral Grove Coven, I am also a member of the Obad Oakheart Grove. I am an avid art collector and avid art lover, knowledge of art history in my background, and knowledge of a lot of different literature. Last Unicorn is near and dear to my heart as a direct result. And I actually met Kate as a result of that love, and we will get into that later.
How about you, Jules?
Well, I am the resident muggle here, I think, and uh, what qualifies me to be on this call is that I love you dearly, Kate, and I met Spiral and I love her too. She's a lovely person. And I met Kate in college, and she was a theater major and I was a music major. And then we graduated and have stayed in touch. And I also have now a degree in engineering. So I am an engineer, and that's what I do for a living. And I still sing, and I don't read tarot, but I totally think it's fascinating, and I'm happy to be here.
And I am pretty sure that you were the first person I ever gave a reading to. Because when we met in college, so glad I had a hammer. That I didn't have a hammer, but I knew where the hammer was. So glad you asked for a hammer. Yep. I had that day that we met, I had my first 2 decks, which have another unicorn tie-in, because my very first tarot deck was the Unicorn Tarot, and the next deck that was given to me like 3 days later was the Legend of Arthur Tarot. And so I think I had those decks like a week the day I met you. And I'm pretty sure that it was somewhere in that first year at Corcoran Hall where you were like, just give me everything. And I was like, I don't know what to do. You're like, I don't care. And so I sat down on my bed and I put out the little sheet with the Celtic cross that came with the deck, and like we did the cards, and I'm like just reading directly out of the book. And I'm pretty sure that you were the first person I ever gave a tarot reading to.
I love that. That's awesome.
That's amazing. And there's so much of our histories that ties in with the magical and with the unicorn aesthetic, so. And I'm just going to be honest here, Julie. I don't think you can be entirely a muggle and be a music major at the same time.
That is true. I'm probably Kate's most muggle friend, though.
No.
I'll fight you for that title any day.
No, I think that title goes to a friend of mine who I won't name because I don't know if he would like being named in that way. But he is just 100% an accountant and has been as long as I have known him, which is since Chicago. Both of you do know who
Right.
I'm talking
I know
about.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
He's more muggle than I am.
Like, love him dearly. And the only thing that that makes him like atypical to our current like social norm is that he's vegan. But we're here to talk about unicorns. And since we had a little bit of Julie's and my origin story, Spiral, you want to talk about how the Last Unicorn brought us together?
Sure. So back in 2012, I'm going to say, we were both in attendance for the Pagan Pride, Portland Pagan Pride. And that year it happened to be that it was put on and promulgated in part by Sister Spirit. And they were doing the ritual at the end of the evening, and they were putting together all of the different things they need to do a passion play style ritual. And so being that that's the case, they were having to move a lot of tables and chairs and get the place organized, and it was a lot of hullabaloo, and there was a lot of crones there. And so I'm like, well, I am an able-bodied woman. I can handle, helps over here. And all of a sudden you appeared before me doing the same thing. I was wearing a Last Unicorn shirt. And in that moment, I knew I had found a soul sister. Not only were you wearing the Last Unicorn shirt, which is near and dear to my heart, you're also in a pagan run event. So I knew that this was a match made by the goddess, and we were clearly meant to be together.
And I remember beelining for you because I saw you taking very clear actions to clear the space, and I was still relatively new to the Portland pagan scene because I was very surprised when I moved here how many pagans and witches I was finding, but how little like larger open community I was finding. And so that was one of the first open public events that I found. And because I saw you being like, oh yeah, like, and do this, I was like, oh, she must be one of the organizers. I'm gonna make a beeline and like make this connection. And you were just completely following your gumption, like, well, this needs to get done, so let's do it. And yeah, a friendship was born. I still have that Last Unicorn shirt. I thought about trying to wear it, but considering the weight gain over the years, I didn't want to potentially make myself sad. So instead I am just wearing my unicorn earrings and necklace.
And looking fabulous with your body glitter, might I add.
I do love adding a little bit of bio glitter sparkle. No plastic particulates. Bio glitter. It exists. Enjoy it. And hello, Megan. Yes, for those of you who are joining the live stream, feel free to say hi in the comments and chat in your questions and such. I'll start diving in with the unicorn, Last Unicorn Tarot, the Kickstarter edition. This is the official licensed Kickstarter edition. There are lots of pirated copies of this online. Do not buy them. It takes money away from artists. It takes money away from creators. It is bad energy all around. And actually, if you go into one of my previous videos where I'm talking with Barbara Moore, on Barbara Moore's website, there is a place that you can report anywhere that you see pirated decks, because while it hurts indie creators the most, it hurts all tarot creators out there. So make sure you get your licensed, your official good ones. Both of these decks were gifts, and they were, you both know me so stinking well. And because Spiral, I remember you and I talking about this deck when the Kickstarter launched, because I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, and it looks awesome, and it's gorgeous, and a well done, a very well done and pretty box, and like beautiful faux leather bound book and such, full beautiful color pages inside going
it's really
through
gorgeous.
oh my god. And I was like, oh, it's gorgeous. And it was just not in my personal price point at that moment. And so I just sort of tucked it away and didn't think about it. And then when you left me a gift, that was the side of the Thank you. And I have done a few readings with this deck so far, and they have been lovely. And when I was at the Northwest Tarot Symposium earlier this year, I also brought this deck and loaned it out to one of my friends, Shireen, who needed a deck at one point when we were next to each other. And yeah, and for like fans of the movie, as we three are, it 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 just dives in so beautifully, and like, I'm gonna
Yeah, and I really like how the person that developed the deck matched the characters or the scenes of the movie very well to the meaning and the magic of the tarot itself. That was part of the thing that clinched it for me. And I said, I know a tarot reader that has to have this.
Thank you. And it's interesting because as I've gone through the deck and started, working with her more, there are two moments in the film that, and after I share this, I would love each of you to weigh in with your own parts of the movie that really resonate for you. But the two moments in The Last Unicorn that were just like huge heart, soul for me as a youngster when I watched it were I Love Whom I Love, which long before I had the vocabulary of queer and pansexual to like hang a hook on, I had The Last Unicorn being like, I just love whom I love. I love whom I love. And the moment in when they're walking out underneath the tunnels in the castle, and the Lady Amalthea wants to go back, and Prince Lear is like, no, we have to keep going forward. Like, the story doesn't stop in the middle. You have to keep seeing it on through to the end. And I'm horribly paraphrasing, but those like two moments were just huge for my young life. And interestingly, those moments are in here, but because so many other parts of the movie are, when the cards come out, like if it is around those same time frames, or as some readers like to talk about how God or the divine is in between each of the cards, and like what's not there. And so in some ways it's almost like those two moments from the movie are they're obviously still in this deck because it's all part of the movie, but they get to be those little magical additions that pepper in. What are moments in the movie that were really powerful for each of you when you watched it for the first or any time?
Well, Julie, I'm going to let you go first because I got a few that came to mind.
Okay. Well, the two ones that I mentioned before we started, that my daughter just watched it recently and I watched it with her. So it was nice to get the whole story back in my head because I hadn't seen it in a very long time. But the two that I remembered before I watched the movie is where she, as a unicorn, is looking at herself through the bar and sees she has a fake horn, and this idea that most people can't see what they're looking at, even when it's right in front of them. And it's a great metaphor, and it's a thought I've had over the years over and over again. And when things like that happen, I think of that scene. And the other one is the end when all the unicorns come out of the ocean and they're playing the song, and it's very dramatic, of course, and that stuck with me forever. But it's that aching and yearning in your heart of that yes,
Yes.
yes, yeah, that you know, like that, and I think that was drove me as an artist, is that feeling of yearning for something else, and it's happening and you can't quite touch it, and there it's like, yes, it's like speaking to that glory that, you know, you're like so close to touching or tasting. And I feel like as a musician, I was always chasing that and looking for that and trying to create that.
Mm-hmm. I
Ugh.
love in pulling these cards out to illustrate the moments in the movie that you were talking about. I love how it just so happens that one of the runnings out is the tower and one of the runnings out is the sun.
Yes. And funny, right, Kate? Because of course, like how much I love the sun, right? And that's always been my thing. And I think when I spoke about, if like that's such a part of my artistry, and yep, I get it.
And your
They get it.
biorhythm, like,
Yes,
thankfully.
yes.
A story for a story for another time. Julie helping me move to Northern California to study at the Del Arte School, and how well our differing biorhythms supported that road trip. Yeah. What about you, Spiral?
Well, equally, we're going to have to do the other side where I came down to Northern California with you to get the stuff later. So we're bookends, Julie. I love
I love
that.
it.
All right.
So true. I had not thought about that before. That is so true.
Okay. The first one you talked about, Julie, is so poignant to me because I remember this. Like the unicorn wasn't beautiful to other people, yes,
There it
until
is.
she had a false horn, right? And Schmendrick has a line, and it's something like, people can't see things unless there's a false horn on a real unicorn, and like that is legit, right? Okay. For me, the line "magic, do as you will." When Schmendrick just
Yes.
allowed that to happen, that was one of those whoosh moments in my life, right? When just the doors opened, right? And yes, I did think about the unicorns rushing out to sea from sea. Um, I also thought of the magical transformation when the Amalthea is born and the unicorn is set aside for a little while, and then vice versa, and how those things played out, a little different on each side, and it was creepy and magical. But then the last thing that came to mind was that poignant moment. Um, and it's when Molly goes and starts sobbing and weeping and saying, "Where were you 5 years ago, 10
Yes.
years ago, when I was beautiful? Not now, when I am that. How dare you come to me now when I am this?" And it's just like such a heartbreaking moment. I love that because it's it really speaks to the beauty and the like the disaster zone moment that we have is as females, when we think we're broken, because we have this misprogramming from our stories of origin telling us that we're not beautiful because we don't have the youthful appearance anymore, right? That was like, oh, that was so beautifully tragic. I love that.
And how those moments were that you were talking about, Spiral, were captured in these cards is so perfectly placed with that heartbreak scene of Molly's in the Three of Swords, and the magic do as you will as judgment, because the magic gets to make that ultimate decision. We can be the pathways and the conduit, but the magic and the energy and the intention, like, take it on to the world. So um is is there anything that either of y'all, oh, and I don't think I showed this, but I didn't say which card it was, and the only being able to see the unicorn with the fake horn is the Nine of Swords. And so where those illusions and disillusions come up, and what is in our brain, what is in our minds and what is in reality, and where they are the same and different. And is there anything that either of you would like, or any of y'all? And oh, I am so glad that you are getting goosebumps listening to all of these juicy moments that resonated for us in the movies, Megan. Yes, thank you. Is there anything any of y'all would like to ask this particular deck? Ooh, well,
Where
the deck
is
wants
my
to say something.
unicorn?
What was that, Spiral?
Where is my unicorn?
I'm right here, Spiral. Here's another one, and one of the very first unicorns I was ever given by my friend Tracy.
Oh, but that's the
Yeah.
other meaning of unicorn, honey. That's a different thing.
I mean, that just requires going on to the right chats and the right clubs, my friend.
I love how you pick up what I lay down.
Yeah. Especially when it is talking about those such things. So the card that fell out was the Sun, which is just flippin' lovely. And hi, Jules, it's your card.
It's my card.
It's your card.
Spiral, apparently I know your unicorn, and I'm going to introduce you.
Right? I mean,
I like this. I like this very much. Do either of you have anything that you want to ask this particular deck? Add the Sun back
magic do as you will. How's that?
in. Magic, do as you will. The Devil, the Red Bull. What are we running from? What are we afraid of? What do we need to drive into the ocean and cool its jets and stop it from hurting others out there? And one of the things that I love about the Red Bull being chosen as the devil and is that the Red Bull was the creation of something. It was the creation of King Haggard's. It's not something that is just there for all time and we have nothing that we can do about it. We can absolutely take the things that are not working for us, whether that is mental stuff and doubts going on, whether that is literal things that are putting friends and community of ours in danger, and we can put it out with our own powerful unicorniness and friends and compatriots. Hi, friends and compatriots. Like, we can put it out. It takes work.
It says climate change to me.
Yes. Yes, all of those fires. Yes, yes, yes.
To me, the Red Bull is fear itself.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, Amalthea had to disperse it in order to find the joy. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, shifting from The Last Unicorn Kickstarter edition by the good folk at Geekify to something a little different. The Rebel Deck, an oracle with attitude. 0 filters, 0. I mean, I'm not monetized on YouTube at all, so I can probably say fucks, but you know.
It's a unicorn, princess.
And the warning, so to speak, on the back of this deck: brace yourself. Rebel Deck messages are quick, dirty, and direct. We gave the ancient art of divination a modern makeover and added a little insult to insight. This deck is rebellious, foul-mouthed, and raw. Ask the cards what you need to know right now. These messages will tell it like it is. No interpretation necessary. Messages like, one of y'all tell me when to stop shuffling. And it can be you all friends in the chat also, whichever stop I see first.
Stop.
Watch out. Shit could get really ugly. And be careful, you might be shady. So let's all keep clear intentions so that we don't have any accidental shadinesses going on, unless it is for a very, very good cause and reason. But yeah, watch out. Shit could get ugly. And oh, so Megan, I just saw your question of this time of year is very transitional. Would love to know how to best ride or flow with or prepare for during this transition. So I am presuming that you had asked this question when the Last Unicorn deck was up, but because I saw the question when Rebel Tarot is up, we're going to answer it with Rebel Oracle, and we'll see what she has to say. And then if it does not resonate, I'll go and pull a card from the Last Unicorn Tarot for you. So for helping with this transitional time of year, get the fuck out of your head. Get in your heart. It misses you. Your heart wants you back, Megan. Your heart and your body want you back. And so, Julie, I would love to know why you wanted to give me this deck.
Well, what do you get for the girl who has every deck? I mean, that's really, really the first question. There were 2 things at the store. I was on the Oregon coast, and I was at this little gift shop, and there were 2 things I wanted to get you. And I don't know. I thought in my head, like, this has to, like, what I just asked, like, speak to me. What would Kate want? Right. And then all of a sudden I knew to get you this deck. But also, I tend to swear a lot, and my advice is usually really blunt, as Kate well knows.
Love you for it.
Like, usually, like, if you don't know me and you come up to me and you tell me like, this happens to me all the time, where people tell me their problems, and usually within like 2 minutes I'm like, break up with him. It's time. Break up with him. You know, this is over. You know it's over. And I'm like known for that kind of advice. I'm like, this is perfect. That is why. And it cracked me up with the no unicorns.
Yeah, well, and I was trying to find because there's a thing in there about why they have that logo, and maybe it was on one of the. Yes. What's with the logo? Unicorns are amazing. Yes, unicorns are amazing, magical, beautiful, and also not real. Rebel Duck messages are about realness. Sometimes life isn't all rainbows and unicorns. Now, I don't know that I necessarily disagree with the author that unicorns are not real, but I do agree that not everything is light and fluffy and effervescent, and sometimes you can't just put a really good spin on things. It's just like, nope, this is awful and hard, and
Yes.
just what it is. And Megan, I am so glad that that card resonated, and that bring it, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So Spiral, you had mentioned that you had a whole bunch of other like unicorn things that you were excited to share. I would love to see them.
Excellent. So, as I mentioned before, I do have a lot of art history in my background. I was 9 years of art school, and I did that. And so I was very, very serious about fine art for a little while until I found out I could make more money not being an artist. Truth be told.
That's how
And
I became an engineer.
right. I mean, I think that's how I got into the line of work that I'm in, and using my my more of my English and words than my art. But I'm both an English nerd and an art nerd. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about both. So The Last Unicorn, before it was a movie, it was a book by a gentleman by the name of Peter S. Beagle. And when he was in his kind of like the phase in which he was coming up with this amazing story, he and his friend took a trip out to the coast intentionally. They neither one of them were very well employed at the time, and they just decided to go to this shack by the sea, and that's where he did most of his writing for The Last Unicorn. And so that the genesis of the story, or the story behind the story, is sort of kind of a finding yourself journey, and also a sense of loss, right? And anybody that knows the story can see how those things overlay and play into the Last Unicorn story arc, right? There is it's a tale that has a loss in it, and in addition to the hero's journey, which made famous by the Joseph Campbell the Great, we see the story arc that's played out through that lens. But in addition to that, there's so many other fantastic pieces, and one of those pieces is Peter's ability to tap into the sort of primal feelings and emotions of the human experience. And part of that, as we mentioned, was that whoosh, the energy that comes through in the telling of the tale through the other medium, which is the movie. And then, of course, we can see it in another way through the lens of the tarot. But all of those lenses were first sort of laid to light by Peter Beagle. And another one of his stories, which is lesser known, is called A Fine and Private Place. And he got the title from a two-liner from Andrew Marvell, and it says, "A grave's a fine and private place, but none, I think, do there embrace." And so the seed thought was, well, what if somebody does embrace at the grave, right? So it's an interesting look as to what happens directly after you lose your life. It's the end. It's a story, a love story between two ghosts. Very interesting stuff.
Aww.
And I fell in love with it. And so it's creepy and it's cool. And like, people don't read this one enough. But enough about that. So now we
I
have the
believe
story
that.
behind the story. We have a little bit more about the literary aspect. Let's talk about art. Okay.
It was
So
funny while you're pulling up the art. I had tried to find, because I read the
oh
original
yes.
book
Oh
as
yes.
well, and I was trying to find my copy of it, and I don't have it, and I couldn't find it, and I feel like I must have loaned it to someone before they did the Last Unicorn movie tour a few years back, because otherwise I would have taken it and gotten it autographed, like I have up on my wall here
Yes.
of the postcard of the Last Unicorn from
Like
that
that.
tour. Exactly, just like that. And yeah, I wish I knew what had happened to my copy of it.
Well, mysteries abound because my copy was missing too. So fascinating. I probably loaned mine out too. So when he was out in Portland, this is a piece that I worked on when I was younger, and it was inspired by three different things: The Last Unicorn, by Susan Sedan Boulay, and also by my love of unicorns. I had him sign it when he was around because I'm like, Mr. Beagle, would you please sign this too? And he laughed and he said, "Did you draw that?" And I said, "I sure did, back in 1995." So yes. Um, but I mentioned Susan Sedan Boulay. Okay, so if you're tarot lovers and goddess lovers, you'll probably be very well familiar with Susan Sedan Boulay. This is some of her work. She was a Brazilian artist who was then came to the Bay Area and did a lot of her pieces in San Francisco. And I marked this. This is one of her most famous and also the sort of like the first thing that made me fall in love with her art. And it's Isis and Osiris, you know, the resurrection piece, right? And I liked it because it is a perfect pietà, and that is another whole class. And but just know it's like a pity, but it's not a Christian version of it, which made me like really deeply love that piece. All right. So then later on, when I was looking at this unicorn book, which is called In Pursuit of the Unicorn by Josephine Bradley, she has many different depictions of the unicorn species. As you can see, it's not just Susan Sedan Boulay, but there are a number of pieces that are hers here. And this is the piece that I fell in love with and identified most with. And
Mhm.
you can kind of see how it was the inspiration as far as the positioning of the horse.
Yeah, the
E-
body
even though
posture.
even though it isn't quite the same unicorn, this is something that artists do a lot. You know, they'll do like re-representations or their own take on, you know, or be inspired by, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the tarot is, right? It's that re-representation of this story arc. And because I think because there is that story behind the story of the creation behind Last Unicorn, that
Mhm.
shows through in the deck, right? Just in the way that the deck that Julie got for you, her story behind the story is that she went to the coast and it felt like you, and it's a no bullshit answer. You know, here's the card. The story behind the story for The Last Unicorn is, you know, equally poignant and I think that's why it makes a good tarot deck because it isn't always wine and roses. Although, if you ask the skull, he might tell you something else.
Completely. And to I because before we went live, I heard Spiral and Julie chatting about that first reading that I gave Julie, whether it was the actual first reading I ever gave someone else in like 97 or 98, or if it was just the first reading I gave Julie. It was with the Legend of Arthur tarot, and the sun there, you know, we've seen the sun from the Last Unicorn tarot and all of those unicorns coming out from the sun, but here it's the sun god Lu and such different stories behind the same card, that each of which still have the energy of that boundless sun and the rising and the setting. But here, for anyone who knows Arthurian myth, like, then here they get to dive into the stories of Lugh when this card comes up in a reading, where, as if the same card comes up from the Last Unicorn Tarot, they get to talk about that, all of those unicorns running out of the sea, and how each artist um, adds their own magical interpretation to the cards, is just part of the beauty of this art form and this medium, and it is one of the things that I love and adore. And one of the people I have sold decks to, because some of y'all know that I help vend tarot decks that were part of Arwen Lynch Poe's collection at small festivals and things like that. Arwen Lynch Poe is a tarot author, queer icon, radical, awesome woman. She is also a friend of this channel. In fact, some of my very first live conversations were with her about some of the decks she has created, Gentle Creature's Wisdom deck, Elkie Oracle, amongst others. And selling, one of the customers I had at Beltane in the Grove one year was looking through and was like, where else can, and loved tarot, but very much as a collector rather than as a reader. And so we were talking a little bit about the differences between that, and he's like, well, where else can I get 78 pieces of unique art that are beautiful for $60 or less?
It's very true. It, you
Like,
know,
I
yeah.
am paying less than $1 for a piece of original art. I mean, it's a print of the original art, obviously. In the cases of what I'm vending, not always. Sometimes you are actually getting the original art. But I was like, oh, why had I not thought of it like that before? You know?
Yeah,
So,
and the artwork of The Last Unicorn is actually like pivotal in the art world. That you bring to the mind what I was thinking about on this. Okay, so it was a Rankin Bass production, but at that time in the 70s, when it was being first brought into reality, Rankin Bass decided to outsource a lot of its animation. And they outsourced with a Japanese group called Topcraft. So a lot of the animation that you see in the styling of that is that group. And later, after Topcraft worked with Rankin Bass, they joined the world famous now Hayao Miyazaki. He was the creator of Studio Ghibli and the mastermind behind such greats as My Neighbor Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle, Kiki's Delivery Service, just to name a few. Um, and those are later on, it wasn't until the 2000s, I think, but that was picked up by Disney and repackaged and resold to the American market. But it wasn't until much later. And if you like the style and the stylistic art nature of the deck and of the movie, then you would probably like other things that were done by Topcraft and Rankin Bass together. Flight of Dragons, The Hobbit, and Return of the King. Those were all pieces that were done by that same group collaborator. And Topcraft was the mastermind also behind the series of Thundercats and Smurfs. And yeah,
Didn't
Topcraft is,
realize that. I love those shows.
I know. And Topcraft is, it's sort of like the genesis of all these other really amazing artists that we know and love, but we don't know how much we love them and who they are, right? They're sort of like the wizard behind the orange curtain or whatever, behind the green curtain.
Totally.
Yes, and so if you like those, that's my recommendations, and maybe also look up Studio Ghibli Productions. Then you can do those too, and I will put those names into the comments pod. So
Yeah, please do. It was interesting hearing you talk about the different artists and different studios that went into the making of The Last Unicorn, because even though it is different artists that went into the making of the Last Unicorn Kickstarter edition, one of the things that they did do, which feels of um, which feels of a similar vein to what you were talking about, is each of the arcana and the suits were done by different artists. And I am going to try to read off all these names properly. And if I butcher your name, I am so sorry. Please correct me so that I may say your name properly in the future. But the major arcana cards were illustrated by Adrienne Tamar Arachne. The suit of wands was illustrated by Sarah Fenton. The suit of cups illustrated by Holly Fetterman. The suit of swords illustrated by both Medusa Dollmaker and Adrienne Tamar Arachne. And the suit of coins illustrated by Anika Burrell. And I love that this deck was also inspired by this same movie tour, as written in the foreword, quote, "As I told Peter S. Beagle when we met on the movie tour in 2013, there has never personally been a time in my life without The Last Unicorn. I watched it from such an early age that all my memories first started after having seen it. And during the movie tour, it was awe-inspiring to see just how deeply it had touched so many people and how fiercely it is loved across the world." So just like this, where even though I do not know the Geekify or any of those artists listed whatsoever, like, we are still connected because we all enjoyed that movie tour in some fashion. Although I missed it when it was in Portland, I took a overnight drive with my friend Dana, who is going to be the photographer for the Theater Oracle that I am working on. She and I drove up to see it in Tacoma for the midnight showing, and after the midnight showing and meeting Peter and getting our things autographed and whatnot, we went to the only 24-hour restaurant we could find, which I can't actually remember if it was a Denny's or a Sherry's, but it was one of the two. And we
it's
had a meal.
probably the Denny's.
What was that?
It's probably the Denny's because that's right by the Seattle Tacoma airport.
It might have been. The movie theater wasn't near the airport, though. I don't remember what theater it was in because I do not know Tacoma well at all. But and then we drove right back down to Portland, and we were getting in like right as the sun was rising, and it was just all of these like, it's just like my old Rocky Horror days. Hello. Midnight showing and dawn. Jules, do you have anything that you want to toss in or add in our last minutes here together?
Well, I thought it was really cool when I was looking through the Last Unicorn Tarot at your house last time I visited, how there were two lovers cards. I thought that was awesome.
Why?
Well, as you know, I give very blunt advice, and often it's get rid of the guy. I think that when you see the two cards, that they're very accurate depictions of very different types of love.
Completely. I'm trying to find them right now to illustrate, but do you want to share what you remember?
Yeah, I remember one is lady, well, I'm not going to say their names, right? But the prince and the unicorn together sharing romantic love that is very typical, and the other is the tree. And it's the tree and the wizard, and his face is in her bosom and she's smothering him, right? It's this very very uncomfortable love. this thing you want to
love. Love, 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 love. There's nothing in the world more than a tree's love.
Yeah. I will remember you forever. Yes, I completely agree with you on that. And it's interesting one, because as I said, this is I haven't done a whole lot of readings with this deck yet, but one of the ways it was used during one of the classes in Northwest Tarot Symposium, we were asked to take out the Lover's card in particular, and this was at a time when my deck was being borrowed by my friend, and I leaned over and I was like, so you'll have two choices, because that's one of the things that this deck did differently, is that they gave two lovers, so you get to choose which one of these lovers' energies feels the most appropriate for you in whatever it is that you want to ask, and how you want to, work through the exercises and whatnot. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming and chatting and sharing the live and the space with me in my birthday month.
Birthday month.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So for those of you who are watching the replays, I go live each month, 10th of the month, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Like and subscribe and turn on the notifications to know when I go live, especially if I do something spontaneous, as does absolutely happen. You are also welcome to join Group Tarot's mailing list. All of those links will be added into the comments and such. And thank you all so much. I love you. Mwah. Until next time, friends.
Love you guys. Take care.
Love you.